So I believe that that video was the future, and that was early 2020. And I genuinely, no doubt, like worked on video every day for the past like 4 years, to the point whereby we're trying to do like the Chris Williamson esque style production level, because that was the future. And that's kind of how it kind of panned out, like serendipity, right place, right time, kind of grew continuously. And that was the opportunity within there, because as this industry has been growing, 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 people lack the skills, knowledge, and time. And especially with entrepreneurs being busy and creators being busy, they don't have the same time to be able to work on the cameras and the lights and the audio engineering. So it kind of grew organically from there. And that's when we had moved from just being my show, a very small team, to helping other people. And then what I realized is quite interesting is the fact that often, this could be to do with me for sure, when I would tell someone to do something, they often wouldn't implement it. And I think it was a skills thing, right? It's the fact that it's very difficult to implement the change to do with content or like creation or art. So I often had to show people. So that's when we started doing like done for you. So we would run podcasts, build podcasts, grow podcasts. So that was, I guess, like phase one. And that really, really blew up. Like that blew up more than I like could ever anticipate. So I left like the tech world. I was working in the VC world. I left all that stuff.
Where was this at the time?
I was based in Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah, Singapore, and I was based in Ireland as well. Coming from that, and I was getting a lot of like interest from people. And then what happened then was we kind of got to the next stage in our development, which is like people were like, "Yeah, this is great. I'm glad that we're big, and I'm glad that it looks pretty, but I'm not really doing anything from a business perspective." So that's when we started to add in back end businesses, so podcasts, so courses, coaching, education platforms, software companies, whatever, basically any business. And what I realized is that like content, no matter what the pursuit is, tweets, podcasts, reels, it's all the same. It's all the same at the end of the day. It's all the same. Business is also all the same to some degree. It's just a few changes, right? It's white label stuff. So we almost started to white label the products and the services for people. And that's when things just got like crazy, basically, because now people knew that they could come, they could grow their podcast and their content, and then they could also build a business on the back end. Um, and we're also coaching them and helping them and teaching them and so on. And I think that's the future of like online brands, right? Is the fact that you have the content, cracked the distribution, and then you have the business on the back end. Um, and most people will struggle with that in the beginning, right?
Why podcasts?
So I think podcasting is the future of all communication, and the reason being is because as we sat down, we have not have our phone, we have
Wait,
no
say that again.
distraction. It's a future of all communication,
Okay.
and the reason being is because everything is automated these days. Everything is some Zapier 7 point flow
Yep.
that flows into some
Yep.
CRM, and then some setters calling you and sending you some random number. It's all bullshit. It's all like everything's automated. It's like AI like responses on Twitter and on LinkedIn, on Instagram. It's all AI generated. All the text AI generated. The only thing that we can honestly verify is this. So now that's why there's a huge surge in podcasts, because people are searching for human connection. Think about like how humans came to be, right? We had tribes, we had individuals, we had language, and language came through from text into words, into scripture. And that's exactly where we're at now. And this is like basically one of the best forms of communication, because not only are people entertained, but they're also educated. And it's also done at
Hopefully.
but it's at a free level, right? It's at a
Mm.
free level. It's no pay to play, right? And because of this, we can get a few things. One, we have scalability. So we can get to people across America, Central America, South America, into Africa, and we can basically get this information across everyone. And on top of that, then it's authentic, right? So the harsh reality is that if I looked at a photo that you produced, I couldn't tell much about you. Now you could probably tell much about someone else, but from the outset, some people can't analyze this. Whereas if you've been listening for the past like half an hour or whatever, you have a pretty good idea of like my values. You have a good determination of who I am, like or dislike, but you'll be able to see pretty clearly who someone is. And I think that's what we're seeking. So the future of like communication between normal people, between everyone, is like that. And also from a business perspective, like people buy people. The founder is more known these days than any like brand, right? People know like Steve Jobs, they know like Musk more so than Tesla. You just gotta do a quick analysis of followers of the founder versus the page to realize this stuff. But knowing that, you don't just stop and think, okay, that's an assumption. It's like we need to see this in theory. So the biggest brands, the biggest businesses in the world are founder led, and they're going to be continue to be founder led. So even like Elon Musk is the perfect example, like him or dislike him. But even at a small micro stage, if you wanted to grow your cafe downstairs, if you had behind the scenes of you showing your values and your interests and your purpose in coffee and your research in coffee, people just resonate with you. And people think like, well, they're not interested in what I'm interested in. People are interested in everything, anything and everything.
I'm not doing another podcast.